Carlos Salazar, a CPA, certified public accountant, going through why corporations or why not corporations. Why you may want to look into being a sole proprietor or having a C Corp, S Corp, LLC. Why it may make sense and why it may not make sense. On that note, another speaker is going to be talking about debt. How over indebted people are right now. You're going to learn some facts and figures of what may or may not make sense in the debt world. Do you have credit card debt? Do you have IRS debt? Do you have educational debt? And how do you alleviate that debt as cost efficient as possible with as little fees as possible? Here you go. You're going to get some great information. And hey, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Enjoy.
So as lots of you know, this is part of our TFA Tuesday. TFA stands for the Financial Architects. We're based here in Chino. We have over 13 offices, 12 of them here in California. We got one in Oregon. I don't know if Jimmy's going to be on in a minute, but he's out of Oregon. So we put these specific money talks or information Zooms together so that everybody kind of gets a lot more educated when it comes to business, when it comes to compounding interest, when it comes to insurance. I mean, the works. So today we have two speakers that are featured. One of them is going to be talking about corporations. One of them is going to be talking about how to own a business, whether you own it in sole proprietorship, S Corp, C Corp, LLCs. And what I'm going to be doing is asking questions as the mediator, or something that you guys know as an MC. Today I got my TFA shirt on. I'm real relaxed. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but recent studies, 72% of Americans have tattoos now. So it's more comfortable to do business. So I've been trying to talk Carlos into getting a tattoo, like right here on his neck or something like that, but I don't think he's going to do it. I'm still conversing with him a little bit more, so I want to make sure that you all know I was the guy that talked him into that. I think he's going to put like mom on his chest or something like that. But these two speakers are going to be awesome. They're going to be incredible. The second speaker is Michele. I'm going to be introducing her as time goes on, but she's going to be talking about debt. I don't know if you know this or not, but back in 2008, 2009, debt was a serious problem. And even today, it's really compounded. And I'm going to get into the facts of that debt bubble in a second. So as we continue to do these different TFA Tuesdays and money talks and things of that nature, just know that all of the value that we try and deliver with you folks, it's wide open. Meaning you can invite your friends and your family members and anybody that you'd like to some of these TFA Tuesday talks. And mind you, just because it's not Tuesday, let's say 3 days from now, it's Friday, and you have a question about life insurance, or you have a question about financial planning, or you have a question about, what did he say about the S Corp again, or debt, or should I refinance my house, or should I even buy another piece of property, and what's the investment outlook like, and what's cryptocurrency, is gold big? All of these different questions, when in reference to money, I have a resource, and the Financial Architects has a resource to get that particular expert on the line and make it happy for you. All right. So I'm going to talk about corporations in a second, but I'm going to introduce Carlos in a second, who is going to talk about corporation. And we have close to 70 people on the Zoom call already. The new slogan, I saw Valerie, she posted, she goes, "Zoom in." So that was pretty catchy. I might just steal that from you, Val. But I wanted to share my screen really quick, and I want to show you something that I actually went through. Where's it at? And you could Google this, guys. Now, I went to Cal State Fullerton in Fullerton, California, And I went to Ganesha High School in Pomona. And when I went to Cal State Fullerton, I was around a bunch of college students, obviously. And when I attended this college, I got to be honest with you guys. I was 19 years old at the time, and I thought, man, this is kind of a waste of my time. Unfortunately, I thought that way. The reason why is because I wasn't really used to learning, if that makes any sense. So what I did was I went and shot pool in the pool hall. I went and bowled. I went and did everything else but study. And unfortunately, it caught up to my grades. And then I have to get refocused and stuff like that. But something about money just interested me more than anything else. And I believe the reason why is because I know that if I go to college and I get good grades, I can make a little bit more money. But if I study money and I study the intricacies of money, I can make a lot more money. Whatever your brain, whatever you concentrate on will eventually and inevitably get larger and larger, okay? So I picked up a book that somebody recommended to me called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The author was Robert Kiyosaki, and this is a guy that had a rich dad and a poor dad. His secondary book was called Cash Flow Quadrant. And I don't know what, I couldn't put the book down. I learned so much about money, money factors, owning a business. And I really thought about owning a business, and I said, man, we should get into the taco business. Like every Latino normally has aspirations of opening a Mexican food restaurant. I have no idea why, but we get into these, man, we're gonna own a taco stand, right? So I got with my mom and I said, Mom, we're gonna open a taco stand. It's gonna be awesome. She goes, Mijo, that is a great idea. And she was like excited about it, right? And I started doing all these factors. I go, man, I got to worry about the building, signing a lease, getting that carne asada. I got to worry about the chicken. I got to worry about employees stealing from me. When it was all said and done with taking the factors, I go, man, we got to charge $10 per taco if we have like a real deal big taco place, right? And it just blew me away because business owners, correct me if I'm wrong, they just jump into business and they go, we'll figure it out. So this cash flow quadrant that I'm not able to pull up right now, but this cash flow quadrant, there it is. This cash flow quadrant, if you're looking at it, people go through 4 quadrants of life. Now, everybody on this call is in 1, 2, 3, even 4 of the different quadrants. There's the E, there's the S, there's the B, and then there's the I. E stands for employee, and I'm gonna grab a little marker right now, and I'm gonna circle what I'm talking about right now, okay? E is gonna stand for employee. You see that big circle that I just made? That's where you get a job, you work for an employer, you get the step stool, and you go, hey, I'm paid on a W-2, I'm paid on this, I'm paid on that. And now you normally go to the break room and you gossip about the boss, you gossip about the business, you go, man, they're just taking advantage of me, this company would go under if it wasn't for me. And then you get these big aspirations of being self-employed right here. So you go from having a job to now buying a job, the S quadrant. So once you go there, you're normally working anywhere between 10 to 14 hours a day now. You go from having that job where you made a little bit less money, now you make a little bit more money, and that's where you should talk to a tax professional or a corporate structure person to get you going on this corporate structure. Because you go from self-employed and then you really become a business owner. Now, I don't know about a lot of you guys, but business owners, I've never seen the owner of a McDonald's at the McDonald's. He has a system, right? He's running a system that pays the bills no matter what. Even now during COVID times, that drive-through is popping. Even now, Starbucks has a beautiful business system. But here's the key question. Do I do my business as a sole proprietor? Do I do my business as a C Corp or S Corp or LLC? What are the different ramifications behind that? Do I need disability insurance, employment insurance, all that good stuff? And you should always be in the fourth quadrant, an investor. Now, being an investor means you're grabbing capital from your own pockets and you're putting it into other people's mindsets, such as Apple or Boeing or Coca-Cola. Now you're grabbing your capital, investing with other businesses, and now they're making your money grow and compound and make more money with it. So today we're going to get into corporations, and I'm going to introduce my good friend Carlos on this call. And Carlos has a massive amount of experience. He owns 6 different tax installations, if you will. He owns a company called Vita Tax, where he does more than 28,000 returns a year. Now, mind you, Carlos has a business, if you haven't noticed. He has employees. He's got somewhere between 70 to 80 employees in any given month that he's paying on their payroll. So he doesn't do 28,000 returns. He manages a lot of these people that do the returns. So please have a ton of respect for his time as he goes through some specific corporate structures. And again, feel free to ask as many questions as possible in the chat bar, because I will go and ask him some of those questions so that he doesn't have to concentrate on the chat bar. So Carlos, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and what you normally see a business owner go through when he starts as a sole proprietor, and where would the threshold be to recommend another corporation in the structure?
Right. Thanks so much, Manny, for having me over. Thanks everybody for being here tonight. This is really, really awesome. Very much appreciated. And yeah, I mean, it's a wonderful gathering of the minds.
Take off my screen so I can
You know, from what I see is that, let me give everybody a little bit of background, okay? My name is Carlos Salazar. I am a CPA. I worked with the Franchise Tax Board doing federal and state audits for the IRS as well for 13 years. I did that for a long time. I did audits on businesses, individuals, and you know, investors. I left that job with a dream of going from being an employee, as Manny mentioned, to being self-employed in 2005. So I started my business in 2005, just at the time when the Great Recession was coming. Didn't have money to start a business, so I went ahead and started knocking on people's doors, just the old-fashioned way. So I have a great amount of appreciation for everybody out there that's knocking on doors on foot, one by one, planting those seeds, right? We're planting seeds to be able to get enormous apples in the future. And it's very frustrating, and I understand. I've been there. And over the past 13, 14, 15 years, we've grown. We've developed a business where, to the point where I'm busier than ever, but I'm doing different things now. So yeah, I am a CPA, and I have a lot of experience working with you guys, small business owners. And that's pretty much a small introduction to what I do and what my background is. Manny asked me just right now what I find with business owners. And look, our job at our firm at Vita Tax is to help people start from scratch, right? You know, if you have a dream of starting your business, then you need to sit down and design the plan. You have to come up with a design, an architectural design of what is the best way to structure this business. If you want to make a 10-story building, the single most important part is the foundation of your building. And that's really what we focus on. And part of that foundation requires us to listen to what you're thinking, what your dreams are, how are you going to finance this? And then from there, we look at your options. You have options of being a sole proprietorship. You could be a C corporation, an S corporation, or an LLC. There's a couple other entities out there, but generally speaking, we find that our clients are better suited to be mainly S corporations based on the tax structures. We do have a lot of LLCs and some C corporations as well, but each type of entity has pros and cons, and you need to sit down with a specialist, somebody who understands the differences, so that they could go ahead and build a bridge between the entity and your needs to be able to position you to for the best probability of success for your future. It's unfortunately, it's not as easy as just logging into LegalZoom or any of these online websites and creating an account. People go there and they create LLCs for a couple $100, but hey, you know, you get what you pay for. It's just the way it is. And so, yeah, to give you a little bit of introduction and an answer, Manny, and for everybody out there, yeah, that's what it's all about. Sit down with a professional, an experienced person who understands the differences, and let us guide you as to the best structure based on your facts and circumstances. So now, as far as the differences, and of course, if you guys have any questions, please post them, right? Because I could talk forever, and I don't want to take over Michelle's time either, because I'm excited to hear what Michele has to say as well. But what I want to say is that, you know, if you're going to go and set up an entity, you know, typically we prefer, again, an S corporation. But first, you got to create a C corporation. All corporations are born as C corporations. You need to make an election to convert your C corporation into an S corporation. And that's made through a simple election to convert your C corporation to an S corporation. People ask me, well, what's the difference between a C corporation and an S corporation? A C corporation typically is for a large company, right? Apple, Google, publicly traded companies, these are all C corporations. And the reason I don't like C corporations, at least for the small business owners, is because there's a double level of taxation. You pay taxes at the corporate level, anywhere from, well, now it's a flat rate of 21%. And at the California level, you pay a tax at 8.84% at the entity level. So we're talking about 29 to 30% tax at the corporate level. And then once you decide to pull the money out from the corporation to your personal account, you're going to pay taxes on those dividends. Those distributions are considered dividends, and you got to report those on your personal taxes. So you're double taxed innocently by just creating a C corporation without even knowing what you're getting yourself.
Carlos, can we go back just a little bit, bro? So okay. Let's say, like, for my example purposes, me and my mom, we start a taco place. And we say, you know what, we're going to call it Taco Yo Mama. And I get into a business and I'm a sole proprietor, meaning I have no corporate structure. I made $120,000 in my business the first year. Why would I just not do a sole proprietorship of business? Why would I want to do a corporation of some sort?
Okay, very good question. I did kind of jump over that. Sole proprietorships are so awful that I just jumped over that, but you're making me come back to that, Manny. Okay, let's talk about sole props.
Yeah, the reason why is because I know how I felt, and I've been in the financial services industry for almost 20 years now. But I remember when I first got involved, nobody ever told me open a corporation. So I remember one year I made like 180 grand or something. And my tax guy at the time, he says, oh yeah, you got to write the IRS a 30-something thousand check. And I go, what? He goes, yeah, you know, self-employment taxes. And I go, why didn't you tell me this before I made 180 grand? You know, genius. So, you know, can you explain that to the crowd? Because I know a lot of them are thinking the same thing. They're thinking, well, why do I need a corporation? What's the reason?
Right. Okay. First of all, one of the benefits of being incorporated is that you don't pay that 15.3% self-employment tax. A sole proprietorship pays 15.3 self-employment tax on the profit. So let's just say I'm reporting a profit of only $50,000 a year. I'm generating $4,000 a month to be able to pay my rent, my utilities, food on the table, some insurance, basic costs, $4,000 a month. 4,000 times 12,000 times 12 months is $48,000. Let's round it up to $50,000. I'm having to write Uncle Sam a check for $7,500 at the end of the year, just in self-employment taxes. A corporation doesn't charge you that tax. Number one. Number two, limited liability. God forbid in your taco place, somebody comes in, slips and falls, or you have some type of lawsuit. Somebody got poisoned, things happen. You don't have any limited liability protection if you're a sole proprietorship. Number three, this is a big one, audit risk. You're at a huge audit risk if you're a sole proprietorship, because the IRS knows that for every dollar they adjust, they're going to tax you that extra 15.3% self-employment tax. They're getting an extra 15 cents on the dollar that they adjust. So you absolutely don't want to be a sole proprietorship for that reason. Now, what happens is that most people, once they see their tax bill, they go to the preparer and say, you got to help me out here. I need more expenses. And when you start adding up those expenses, you start lowering your profit and you start increasing the audit risk. Big no-no. I was a very, very bad guy with the government, and I can tell you that's easy pickings. Don't do it. I would rather pay $800 a year to maintain an S corporation in the state of California. The IRS does not tax your S corporations. The IRS taxes you at 0% if you're an S corporation. California wants $800 a year, period. They say, it's like a mafia. They say, you pay me my $800 and I'll protect you, even for myself. Pay me my,
I like that analogy, bro.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay.
That's what it is.
So let's just say in Taco Yo Mama, somebody slips and falls and I don't have a corporation. Are you saying that they're going to go after my personal assets as well as my company assets? And that's the reason why you need a corporation, to separate my business from my personal?
Yes, that's one of the main reasons. I'm all about savings, tax savings, right? But one of the legal reasons, I'm a CPA, I'm not a corporate attorney, but I've been doing this for 27 years and I've seen enough where I know that if somebody wants to sue you, they're going to sue you regardless of what type of entity you have. But you're putting a huge barrier in front of the person suing you if you create a corporation.
So you're saying, number one, the whole reason behind opening a corporation is to separate assets, of course. Number two is to alleviate the 15.3% self-employment taxes. So if I made AGI, which stands for adjusted gross income, if I made 100,000 AGI, you're saying that I'd pay $15,300 for self-employment taxes that year?
That's absolutely correct.
Okay. And if I have a corporation, I would avoid that $15,000 fee and just pay the state of California $800, and that would alleviate my $15,000 overhead.
Not completely. Not completely.
That's what I want. Okay.
There's always a catch
for me, please.
But the beauty of this is that even though there's a catch, it's not good enough to cost us more than being a sole proprietorship. What happens now is that you have to put yourself on payroll. You have to pay yourself for being an employee of your business, right? You have two relationships with your corporation. Let's assume we moved on. I've convinced everybody that they probably shouldn't be a sole proprietorship, right? Now let's get into the corporation side. Let's skip the C corporation because we're not Google or Microsoft. We're a small business corporation. Let's get into the S corporation aspect of this, right?
Yeah, because that's one of the questions, Carlos, not to cut you off, but one of the questions is, why do an LLC or why do an S corp? We already know that a huge company, what would you term a huge company that would fit a C Corp? Are you talking employees or profits?
Yeah.
When can you define when to move forward into a C Corp?
100 shareholders. If you have over 100 shareholders, then by law, you have to be a C corporation.
So no matter what, if you have under 100 shareholders,
Okay.
you should have either an S Corp or an LLC. That's what you're saying.
Absolutely. As a matter
Okay.
of fact, the last audit I did for the government was a $4 billion a year business that was an S corporation. They were owned by 20 individuals.
Wow.
Yes. So it doesn't matter. What matters is that you don't have 100 shareholders. Now, what I was going to get into is this. The reason why we don't advise clients, and again, I'm generalizing, it's impossible to paint everybody with a brush. There's a customization aspect to everybody and so forth and so on, right? I can't possibly say everybody, there's the same medicine for everybody. However, statistically speaking, probabilities are they fall towards the side of being an S corporation. But the reason why we're not advocates of setting up LLCs for businesses, okay, is that you pay the self-employment tax as if you were a sole proprietor. An LLC gives you the same limited liability protection as an S corporation, but with the caveat that you have to pay that 15.3% tax. So you're not getting any tax savings by being an LLC. So we typically advise clients to set up LLCs for property investments. If I'm owning a duplex or fourplex, some commercial property, absolutely, LLCs are the way to go. They offer you other benefits. And right now it's impossible over a few minutes to go over all those details. That's what, we'll talk about that at another time if I'm so lucky to be invited, right? But
get out of here, bro.
the point is this. With an S corporation, you have two relationships, right? You're both an investor and you're also an employee of your corporation. As an investor, as an employee, you pay yourself on payroll reasonable compensation. If you think you're worth 40 grand a year, cut yourself a check for $3,500 a month with unemployment contributions, disability, and so forth and so on, which is going to be in the range of about 15.3%, because that's the same tax. By the way, for those of you that are sole proprietors and you wondered if you're paying into Social Security, Medicare, it's the same tax. But now you control how much your compensation is going to be for. See? So if I'm generating 100 grand of profit, I could say 40,000 of that is for employee compensation, and the other 60 could be a distribution. I'm allowed to get money from the corporation to myself because I'm an investor and I don't pay payroll taxes on that. So at the end of the year, I'm getting a W-2 for 40,000 because I was paying myself $3,500 a month as an employee. And I'm getting a K-1, not subject to the payroll taxes, for 60,000. And I add both and my AGI becomes $100,000. So I saved 15% on that 60,000 because I'm not paying self-employment taxes or payroll taxes on that 60,000. $9,000 I'm saving right there by doing that move, right? If that's how much money I'm saving by being an S corporation. But I have to give some of it back to whom? I got to pay $800 to California, right? I got to pay some payroll taxes on a monthly basis, which is at 15.3% of the 40,000 is $6,000, right? And I got to pay the CPA some money to prepare my corporate tax returns at the end of the year.
Is that a deduction?
Yes, it's all those are tax deductible items. And when we do the math, our job is to show you that you're actually benefiting from that difference. It's a complex algebraic expression, but we could actually show you that you're saving money and you got protections, limited liability protections, you minimize audit risks, and you could open up to 5 DBAs under a corporation as well. Open up many businesses under a corporation.
So Carlos, really quick, because I got about 5 minutes left with you.
Right.
I didn't want to jump in too quickly, but I know that one of the questions is in an LLC, like, why would I own property in an LLC? Like, let's say I buy a piece of property in Northern California, or I buy another piece of property in Florida, are you saying that I can own all of these pieces of property in the same LLC, or would I set up separate LLCs?
It depends on the level of protection you want. If these properties have full equity and they're holding 7-Elevens where thousands of people are coming in and out, then I probably want to have multiple LLCs because I don't want to put too many eggs in one basket, because if I drop the basket, they all crack. If I have family residences and I get a couple of grandmas living there, I don't really have to worry too much about having liabilities, you know. But there's
okay, and then another question I'm reading is Nevada Corps, and this is a big question that I've dealt with in my own business here, doing financial plans for people. Is where was it? It's up there. What is the difference between a California corporation and then a Nevada corporation? Because I have heard it's pretty popular that people are thinking, I'm going to own a Nevada corporation. And what's the drawback to that?
The drawback is that by being California residents, they tax you on worldwide income. It could come from Mars, China, doesn't matter where it's coming from. You're going to have to report it here in California. So basically all you're asking for is an audit by setting up a Nevada corporation. Now, if you're not doing business there, then you're asking for trouble. If you're doing business there in Nevada, then why not open up an entity there? There's no state income tax there. People want to create these entities in Nevada because there's no state income taxes. So typically we advise, again, there's a customization aspect to everybody and your clients. And for people listening out there who are our clients, I'd like to introduce you to Manny. He's a friend of mine. He's a neighbor of ours in Chino. Him and his team are amazing. Life insurances, that's why they're called the financial architects. They're amazing, amazing people. With Manny, it's about quality, not quantity. So I'm sorry, but I have to endorse you as well because I'm a believer.
Thank you, brother.
Everything.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah.
See, I was waiting for the plug, bro. That's cool. Thank you so much.
I know. I'm sorry it took a half hour to get it done. I'm sorry.
Not at all. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Okay, so that makes sense. So correct me if I'm wrong. This is kind of like I had a Yelp, a person contacted us by Yelp because we have one of the strongest insurance and retirement planning Yelps in this area. And they contacted me. They said, hey, I inherited $620,000. How do I avoid taxes? So just so everyone understands the relationship that Carlos has with our firm is I did not recommend a financial tool to this particular person. I first recommended the tax advisor because only they can give tax advice. I know enough to be dangerous, but I'm not a CPA. I'm not an authority on taxes. I'll just ask him for that recommend. So when clients go to the CPA, it makes me feel a lot more comfortable knowing that I'm not getting the client in trouble. So from a financial planning aspect, you know, I know people have financial planners out there and they're trying to answer everything under the sun. It should be categorized, just like Carlos is talking about. So if you notice something, when somebody walks into the front door of Carlos's operation, he's going to design and tailor a tax efficient plan for the business owner because that's his primary cup of tea client. I think 80% of his clients are business owners. So he's going to tailor that, whether it's an LLC or a C Corp or S Corp, to that particular business. So if you have any other questions, he's going to be hanging out on this Zoom call, but I want to introduce, good job, Carlos. They love you. So I want to introduce.
Can I add one more thing,
Michele.
Manny?
Say again?
Can I add one more thing?
Sure.
Okay, just before Michele, there was a quote you and I talked about yesterday. And I love it because right now everybody's going through some difficult times, and it says, the calm after the storm depends on the preparation before the storm. And that is so true. And that's what you do and what I do. We're all about preparing for the storm because it makes a difference on the calm we're going to have after the storm. Right now, we're in the stormy situation. I can tell you, the clients that are going to be okay are those clients that are helping us, that listen to us, that follow the structures. They're getting the highest PPP payments. They're getting taken care of because you got to pay to play. But I just wanted to end that with that very, I don't know who said that. I found it and I copied it because this is the first time I ever shared that one, but I really do believe it's true. And it's exactly what you guys tell, your customers as well, your clients, and we do as well. But thank you guys very much.
Absolutely. It's I normally start off with the prospective client. I let them know, look, there's reactive people and there's proactive people, and that's really when I try and dial in what their financial commitment is going to be and their goals. So I'll go, hey, when do you want to retire? I want to retire by the time I'm 68. All right, how much money do you need to retire on a monthly basis? And they go, $6,200. Okay, awesome. Would you like it taxable or non-taxable? And they normally say non-taxable. And then I say, terrific. Let me design a plan that fits for you. That way I'll know and you'll know what it takes financially every single month to get there. And you find some of my clients, they're like, well, man, it's going to take $872 a month. Oh my gosh, I can't do that. Then terrific. We need to draw you back to $300 a month. Step into the gym. Don't just throw up the 3 plates once you get in there, So the same thing applies for tax planning, ladies and gentlemen. And we have an incredible resource in Carlos and his firm. Somebody asked, how much do you charge for personal and business returns and for bookkeeping? That's a great question. If I could interject before you answer that, Carlos, keep in mind, these are deductions inside of your corp. So if you do pay, just like Carlos says, you got to pay to play. So think about the fees internally inside of that plan. And if it's a registered tax advisor, or are you going to Fiesta Auto Insurance to get taxes done, or are you going to the CPA? So you can answer that question if you can, please, Carlos.
Yeah, well, obviously, I'm going to give you the cheesy answer, right? It depends, right? But my job is to make sure that we create value for you. If I'm charging you something, I want to show you how much I'm saving you. I can't just charge you, I'm in the wealth creation business. Our company is very much cares about helping our clients create wealth, because when the clients are doing well, we're doing well as well. So it depends. Sometimes it could be, $50, $100 a month, and sometimes it could be thousands of dollars. It depends on the situation. But let's sit down, let's talk, and free of charge, by the way. We don't charge for consultations.
For regular, Okay, awesome. So his information is at the very top of the chat bar, ladies and gentlemen. So if you want to, just scroll up and you have his contact information right there. Excuse me. You also have my contact information if you need to get a hold of me. And I know Michele is going to put her contact information as well. Just make sure that you reference our Zoom, because we have several brokers and agents that are also on this Zoom call, educating themselves on corporations and why to do one corporation versus the other, or why to do a sole prop versus an S corp. The young lady that I'm about to introduce to you is one of my good friends here at the Financial Architects. Our firm has been around for, gosh, it hasn't been decades, but we've been around for about 5 years. And for us to have 13 offices in 5 years is saying something. We have a massive amount of integrity with people, and you're going to know right away once Michele starts speaking on this subject. We partnered with a debt program company, and the reason why is because a lot of the leaders inside of our firm really believe that debt is going to be a massive subject in the future. So I want to read some statistics to you right now really quick. And if you're taking notes, actually this is being recorded. We'll probably put this on YouTube. If you follow us on YouTube, it's the Financial Architects on YouTube, or it's Manny Soto on my YouTube channel. We discuss a couple different options on there. So fact, listen to this. The average U.S. household carries $8,398 of credit card debt, ladies and gentlemen. In California alone, our average credit card debt is $10,496 as of last year, by the way. That's going to be rising. Here's another staggering fact. 1.636 trillion, with a T, trillion in student loan debt, ladies and gentlemen. In California, 28,000 on average. Every single student in California has an average of $28,000 in education bills. If that's not scary, I don't know what is. By the way, I know this from the past. About 5-6 years ago, student loan debt surpassed credit card debt. So us going to school and paying for it, you better believe it. You better reap the benefits of that education, let me tell you. Last fact, actually a couple more, okay? If you took $1.63 trillion and divided it amongst students, that would be $82,000 per student. And if you really research the statistics, by the way, it's not the government. The government actually has all these government plans. It's the schools. Did you guys know that the schools overcharge like crazy because the government will give you a loan for it? So the schools come on the scene. They're like, hey, man, water's warm all over here. Now, I went to USC. I went there for a party once, but I didn't really pay for the education in that sector because I thought, damn, that's incredible, right? Last fact, the average Californian, I'm not even saying the United States, the average Californian makes household income $71,000 a year. Let that sink in a little bit. For those of you that are realtors, this is not a real estate call, okay? I do a lot of marketing for realtors. I normally I throw wind at the fire. I'm constantly hoping that you guys do better and constantly being one of your biggest cheerleaders. But how can a person, a family, afford making $71,000 a year, a $700,000 house in California? So the thinking that everyone keeps thinking about of real estate is going to continue to do massive rates of return, in my opinion, I don't think so. Or they've got to come out with a 60 or 90-year mortgage, ladies and gentlemen. So let that soak in just a little bit. But across the board, people are in debt. You know that in 2001, our U.S. debt was at $5.7 trillion. In 2016, it was at $20 trillion when Trump took office. In 2008, it was at $10.7 trillion. It doubled in 8 years. Today, it's at $25 trillion. We are a debt society. Inflation is taking over, ladies and gentlemen. So if you're not saving right now, you have to start at some point in time. You either pay the price now or you're going to pay the price later. But no matter what, you're going to have to pay the price. So the person that I'm going to have speak on debt, Michele, is going to overview a debt program that can save a lot of the people that you know, love, and respect. From a personal standpoint, I don't want this to be a down call, but years ago, almost over a decade ago now, I had a couple people that I personally knew that committed suicide from just debt. And it hits me with a devastating impulse, ladies and gentlemen, because they don't have to have that mentality of, man, how am I ever going to get out of this bucket? So we have the solution, or one of these solutions that you can think about. So Michele, if you can overview our debt program and how it works, I would really appreciate it.
Absolutely, Manny. Thank you so much for letting me talk to everybody, and thank you guys all for showing up tonight. When Manny told me that, he tapped me on the shoulder, he's like, hey, can you look into this debt solution program? I'm like, seriously, debt solutions? And then I got to talk to the people on the program, and I got to get to know them and their company. And I said, you know what? They're a little bit different. They're not your standard consolidation company. They're not your standard credit repair company. They're not, one size fits all company. And so that really piqued my interest. And I'm really excited to show you some different options or different ways that they will look at your overall picture and give you some different options on how to get out of debt. So the first thing I want to do is actually I want to share my screen and go over a couple of stats. I have a couple of stats that Manny didn't steal from me. So this goes, if you have $40,000 in debt. I'm sure everybody on this call knows at least one person with $40,000 in debt. It doesn't take that long for that much debt to pile up. So let's say somebody's like, I'm going to pay my minimum payment. I'm going to pay it every single month on time without fail. I'm not going to incur any more debt from this point on. At an average interest rate of 19%, which is the rate of that most credit cards are charging, it's going to take them 22.5 years and $83,000 to pay that off. 22 years. You could have bought a house in that amount of time. That's just crazy to me. And so people are like, well, I've got some equity in my home. Let me go ahead and refinance it. Well, you're paying probably a 4%, maybe not now, maybe it's only, 3%, but you're going to pay that over 30 years and you're going to pay $68,000 to get that $40,000 of debt paid off. Or maybe you're like, I'm going to file chapter 13 bankruptcy, which you're going to pay the filing fees. Here it says $40,500, but I think it's going to be a little bit more. But then you've got a bankruptcy on your credit report for 7 years. And this doesn't include attorney's cost. I know somebody that just went through bankruptcy and it cost her well over $5,000, and her credit is still messed up 3 years later. And then we're going to talk about debt settlement. So there's 3 different types of debt settlements I'm going to go through tonight. One is called debt settlement, one's called debt assumption, and one is debt validation. And then I'm going to talk about a little bit about if you don't have Carlos in your back pocket and you're not on time with your taxes and you got this huge tax bill and the IRS is starting to garnish your wages, putting liens against your property. We're going to talk about a couple of solutions there. And then we're going to talk a little bit about that student loan crisis that's going on and some solutions for to get out of that debt. So before we get into the debt program though, I do want to show you that there is a way to get out of debt if you work at it very effectively. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of the snowball method or the avalanche method to get out of debt. And so really, hopefully, this is where most people are. They're able to pay their payments every single month. Maybe they're putting $10 extra here, an extra $50 there, but they're just not seeing the balance come down. Well, what we could do is say we got this married couple, and everybody see my screen? Give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. Okay, thanks. Thanks, Elizabeth. So we got a Smile credit card here. The wife's like, I'm gonna go get me some braces. So they got a balance of $2,500. And she's also got a business. She's like, well, I've got to pay for, my call center, my virtual advisor, all of this stuff. So she's got a business card and that's a balance of $3,600. And then her and her husband, they like to go out. They have vacations. They put everything on their Amazon Chase, and that's a balance of about $8,000. And then he's got his own real estate business, and they don't have a S corp set up. They don't have a LLC, anything. So this is all personal debt. He's got a credit card loan or credit card balance of $15,000. And then they're like, we just got to get rid of this. We're going to go out and get a personal loan, and we're just going to take this $25,000 and pay off everything. But what happens? he breaks his leg skiing and he's not able to work for a couple months. He's got some hospital bills. So instead of taking that $25,000 to get out of debt, guess what? Now they're another $25,000 into a line of credit. Now they're up to $55,000 worth of debt, and they just had no idea where this happened. So with this scenario, with a debt-free payoff schedule where you're doing the snowball, you take the smallest payment first, you add a little bit to that, and then you pay the minimums on everything else. Not going to show you the whole thing. If you want more information on this, let us know. I'm going to scroll to the end. Within 3 years, they've paid off all of that $55,000 debt. So this is when you've got a good credit score, you're on time with all of your payments, and you know exactly, like, you know that you're going to be able to maintain all these payments. Now we go into COVID-19, where a lot of people have been laid off, they've lost their jobs, their hours have been cut, they've got multiple 30, 60, 90-day lates, their credit scores are now in the 400, 500, 600s. They're back up here, their payments are back up here at $1,800 a month, and they're like, man, we only have like $12,000 to pay these. We know we need to get life insurance. We have no emergency fund. God forbid, the car breaks down or the water heater breaks. Like, we just are at our wits end. So then you're looking at, okay, what are my options? Well, you could file bankruptcy, or you could try to get yourself into some kind of debt program. And there's not a right answer for this. Just like Carlos said, when he's going over somebody's, situation, it depends. Is a S corp is the right thing most of the time, but not always. When we're here at the Financial Architects, we are not sure what kind of life insurance is necessary for you. That's the same exact thing when you're talking about a debt solution. So it's really important to sit down with one of us at the Financial Architects, and we could go over the options with you. Actually, we don't go over the options with you. We work with this amazing company called Empowering America. I just love their name. And really what they do is they're empowering you to take back your financial life. And they look at it with 4 different ways. They look at getting you out of debt, and they use them all together depending on what the scenario is. And they call the solutions VAST. So the first one is validation, and this is where kind of like the credit repair that you're aware of is. They go in, and when, say, you have some medical bills, you have old credit card debt, and it's been sold to a collections agency, what they do is that there's certain things that need to be done to sell that debt, and they validate that they did it all correctly. And if not, then they move to get the debt completely removed off of your credit. And then the next thing is assumption, where they actually have a law firm that they work with. The law firm actually becomes co-debtors with you. So they put themselves on the debt, they rewrite the contract with you, and then they cause the credit card, it's usually credit card companies, sometimes personal loans, it depends on the company itself. They get them to actually violate the terms and conditions of the agreement. They get fines levied against the credit card company or the loan company, and they end up getting the credit completely dismissed and removed off of your record. Then the last thing is what we're mostly familiar with is debt settlement, and that's basically where the credit card or the Empowering America will say, stop making all your payments. What we were going to do is we're going to set up a savings account for you. And so let's go back to that couple that has the smile. They have the Bank of America card. They have the Amazon Chase card. What they'll do is what they do is they actually reduce your payments. So they take that $1,800 that couple was paying. Now you're only going to be paying about $900 to $1,000 a month. So now all of a sudden you freed up like $800-900. Just imagine, just sit there and think, man, what could I do with that extra $800 to $900 a month when I wasn't even sure if I was going to put food on my table, if I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to keep the electricity on for my kids. Like, how much freedom would that give you when your back is completely up against the wall? And this is why we're offering this. we understand not everybody's going to fall into needing this, but the people that need it, we're going to be there to help and serve them. So with the settlement, they'll take that $2,500 payment and they'll negotiate it, and they'll say, okay, we'll pay $1,250 on it. It is going to hurt your credit because it's going to come back as a negotiated debt that's paid. So you are looking at at your credit score being hurt for the next 24 to 36 months. But what are the alternatives? This is kind of where you don't have any alternatives left. And so when you're looking at the kind of the credit and the debt relief, this is what we're talking about here. And then there's a couple other services I mentioned. So they do tax relief as well. So let's say you're one of those guys. So let's go back to Manny's scenario where, let's say he finds out he's got $35,000 he's going to pay. He's like, dude, I spent all my money. He's like, I've been rolling. So he's like, I'll take care of that later. And another year goes by and he's like, I'll take care of that later. Now he's up to $70,000 in tax debt. Well, they're going to start putting a lien on his property. They're going to start garnishing his wages, and the IRS will get to a point where they're just going to go and drain your bank account. They don't care that you've got, bills to pay, you got children to feed. They're just going to take your money when it gets to that point. And what this Alleviate tax company does is they come in and alleviate that pressure for you. So there's go ahead, Manny.
Michele, I know that Carlos was an auditor at the IRS. Carlos, can you talk about that a little, just a tiny bit? Like, what happens? They send you a nice letter, the IRS, and they go, hey, we're about to take all your money from your bank account. Do they do that?
No, it doesn't quite work out that way. I mean, it's kind of like the credit cards, right? It's a process you go to get to that point, right? So they're not going to come and take you away. I have clients to ask me, I see a helicopter over my house. Do you think they're after my $2,000 debt? It's really kind of sad, I'm like,
yeah.
No. But anyways, no, it doesn't work out that way. Just communicate with them and negotiate. As Michelle's saying, everything is negotiable. You just got to make some phone calls.
Yeah.
And talk to the professionals.
But it can get that bad, can't it, Carlos? If you completely keep your head in the sand, you don't do anything, you continue to ignore them, like.
Just like the credit card companies, it gets nasty, but it's a process. If we allow it to get to that point, right? Sooner or later, we gotta face the music. So yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Michele, I was paying attention to your presentation, and does this affect their credit? Let's say I take advantage of the program and I'm in debt out to my eyeballs. I got 80 grand of debt, whether it be student loan debt, credit card debt, my car. I mean, I don't own a house, I rent, so I can't pull equity and pay it down, or there's no equity in my property, so I can't pay off my debt. Like, is it going to affect my credit though?
It is. It absolutely is. And this is for people that their credit's already kind of been destroyed. So if you've got good credit and you're making it, this program isn't for you. But let's say you haven't worked in 3 months, you haven't received your stimulus check, you've got a 30, a 60, and 90 day late on several different accounts, and now your credit score is 500. Kind of what do you have to lose at this point? Because now you could get proactive instead of being reactive. You take that decision, you decide to get proactive, and now you start taking steps to make your credit better starting day one. And so it takes 12, 24, 36 months for your credit to completely kind of heal, but you'll start seeing increments of it getting better as you progress. One of the really cool things that I don't know of anybody else that's doing this, that if you're in the settlement program and you make your monthly payments 6 months in a row, you don't miss it, if you're not late, what they'll do is they actually go to a bank, and let's say you owe another $20,000 on that outstanding debt. They'll loan you the money to pay off the remaining debt, and now you're just paying back the bank. What this does, it gets your credit repair quicker, and it actually opens you up a new line of credit. So that's an open line of credit that's positive, where you're starting to rehab that credit.
Does it cost me, Michelle, sorry to interrupt, but does it cost me any money to get an analysis, or are you the big slogan, free analysis included with this Zoom?
It is. It's a free analysis. What the company will do is they'll have us help you fill out a questionnaire. We'll send it in. We'll do a 3-way call with the TFA agent, with the enrollment specialist, and with the client. And we'll go over and say, does this make sense for you? And they'll say, you know what, your credit's too good. You don't have enough bad hits. You may just want to go with credit repair. Or, yeah, you know what, let's go ahead and help you start getting some of those debts negotiated or removed, and that will cost you money. It'll start at $199, and then it depends on how many accounts that you have and exactly what parts of the program they choose for the rest of the amount, but they'll let you know that before you sign any paperwork.
Got it. If you guys have any questions whatsoever for Michele, please send me a chat. I want to sum up the meeting right now. I know that here's the common denominator from each of us. I mean, I am seated, of course, but Carlos said it and Michele said it. Hey, it's not a one size fits all. I'd laugh at a dude that gives me a size 8 shoe because it's not going to fit on my size 11 foot. So every family scenario is going to be completely different. Some people own properties. Some people own multiple properties. I seen one of my clients in here, he owns like 7, 8 different properties. So he's got equities in different positions. The same client has a couple different IRAs. I know I saw another client of mine on here. He's got a pretty heavy life insurance policy where he's got north of almost 200 grand actually inside of his life insurance policy. So there's a bunch of different scenarios. There's some people that believe in tax later vehicles. There's some people that believe in Roth IRA tax now vehicles. Whatever the case may be, everybody's situation is different. So across the board, people are going to need that free analysis. I got some questions coming in. Such a great meeting. Thank you, Ange. Thank you, man, and Carlos. Awesome. So across the board, everybody has a lot of different scenarios, situations. But we have a group on Facebook. It's TFA Tuesdays. So if you haven't joined the group, please join the group. All of the stuff that we share that's on there is very important information, whether it be insurance or retirement planning. I've even gotten out there, I asked a question and I had 5 different people respond and give me different answers because I asked, what would you like to hear? We had a stock person on here the other day saying they want to show people how to invest into stock, and we vet these people. So we want to make sure that we deliver as much opportunity as possible. So if you join that group, you can always feel free to get an answer back. Another thing with respect to that group, anybody that posts you're selling vitamins and things like that on the group, I'm deleting the post just to let you know, respectfully. So sell vitamins on your own Facebook page. We have a TFA Tuesdays. It's money talk. It's very important for people in the financial solvency or financial situations that they may be in. So if you haven't joined that group, please do so. Every single Tuesday, we have another speaker. This upcoming Tuesday, I'd like to hear your thoughts. I'd like to hear, hey, what kind of things do you want to hear? Gold or silver, or what's trading, commodities in general, etc. So I think that it would be very powerful if you ask these questions. Until then, thank you so much. Please tune in. We're actually going to post this. It's recorded, so we're going to post this on the group. Actually, we'll put it into the YouTube, and then we'll post it on the group. We thank you so much for paying attention and attending. We had a little over 80 people show up, so that's pretty strong. Have a terrific Tuesday. Don't eat too many tacos on this Tuesday. I'll see you very soon. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Did I not follow through with the promises that I had with Carlos and Michele going through why a corporation and why you may be better served on different debt roll down programs, okay? Hopefully, if you enjoyed it, you'll subscribe to our channel and stay tuned on some of the great things that we got in the future.